today I'm talking about how to improve your Japanese listening skills fast. Yeah, so this week I'm talking about this one, and then today is day 2, so part 2 of this, how to improve your Japanese listening skills fast. I know many of my Japanese students found listening is one of the most difficult skills to improve. So that's why I create this mini series today, this week, so we can focus on how to improve your Japanese listening skills. So let me share the screen. Let me try. So can you see it? Yes. So this one. Yes. So yesterday we looked at that there are 2 types of listening activities. So the first one is listening a lot, and then second is listening precisely. And then today I'm talking more about the first one, listening to Japanese language a lot. Okay, so this is the literally it means listen to Japanese every day, like the baby listen to all the sounds in their environment and it absorbs the language. So we mimic the similar kind of listening audible stimulation. So the main purpose of this activity is to absorb Japanese language. So you don't have to focus on your understanding. It doesn't matter, you cannot understand at all, that's fine. Just listen a lot and then absorb the language and feel the language. Listen to the Japanese sound, okay? Not the language, more like Japanese sounding system. So you gradually get to get familiarized. You understand how Japanese people pronounce Japanese language, what kind of Japanese language sound we produce, and then you can mimic the sound later. So this activity, listening to Japanese language a lot, is more like base foundation level of activity. It's not the you find out the meaning, okay? It's more like you train your ears and train your brain to understand the Japanese sounding system, and then gradually you can pick up some words in the Japanese sound. Okay? So then maybe you want to know what is a better listening materials. Okay? Well, actually, there are better ones, and then you may ask movies or TVs. Yes, and actually these 2 are the main listening material my students use, or many Japanese learners use. And then from the if you want to improve your listening skills, they are not great, okay? I have to say, don't take me wrong, movies and TVs are good. So if you enjoy watching Japanese movies or films or drama, animes or TV shows, whatever, it's great, okay? So keep watching them. But if you want to improve your Japanese listening skills, they are not the best, okay? They are not that great, because did I include? No, because when you watch movies and TVs, you can pick up what is going on through the image. Yeah, so you get more visual stimulation, okay, and then your ear just follow. And of course this experience are very important, so I don't want to discourage you to watch Japanese movies and TVs, but if you want to improve your listening skills, they are not the very best ones, okay? So my recommendation is radios and podcasts. Yes, well, I know it sounds a bit old-fashioned in a sense, but actually they are more like just listening, so you can more focus on what is going on through the sounds. You can concentrate. You try to pick up some information through Japanese language itself, not the visual stimulation. Okay, so that's the reason. Of course, videos and then TVs, movies are great, but for listening skills, radio and podcast works better. Okay, and maybe you want to ask what kind of Japanese radio and podcast shows. As I said before, I like to encourage you to listen to the Japanese radio or podcast shows regularly. Okay, even if you cannot understand what is going on. This is more like train your ears to get used to the Japanese sound. Okay, so this is like a foundation. Imagine you are a baby and then absorb all the sounds and then slowly but surely establish the a kind of audio stimulation of the Japanese language. And then once you get used to it, it's much easier for you to follow the sound and then pick up some words. Okay, so and then when you use it, when I say Japanese radio shows or podcast shows, please choose talk shows for native Japanese people, not for Japanese learners. I know I also publish the Japanese listening podcast for Japanese learners to help their listening skills. I'm talking about that tomorrow. Okay, but when we use to listen to Japanese a lot, you need to use the native Japanese speaking level talk shows, not the a little bit easier, the learner's version talk shows. Okay, so please choose the talk shows for native Japanese people. Okay, the Japanese radio, broadcast things for Japanese people. Okay, that's very important to get used to the native level Japanese sound, even if you are absolute beginners, right? That's a very important point. This is not the activity to understand, okay? This is the activity to listen to and then get used to the Japanese language sounds, right? So my recommendation is maybe there are so many radio apps, so you can access to the Japanese radio shows or podcasts through apps or web page, but maybe this is the easiest one to use, and then many of you can access to it for free. TuneIn Radio. So you can find the app in iPhone and then Android, and then you can also access through web page, so you can use your laptop or your tablet or whatever. Yeah. So how to use? Once you download the app, you can choose by language. Okay, you can find, this is the screenshot of my mobile. But if you use the website, maybe you can find the left side. But choose by language, and then choose Japanese. And then, music is fine, but this time, we focus on the learning to get the listening materials to improve my listening, our listening skills. So that's why I choose talk. Okay, so you need to listen to the people's chatting. Yeah, so choose talk, and then choose whatever you like. Yeah, if you are a business person to go to Japan for business purposes, maybe business podcasts would be great, and then entertainment or any news shows or music talks. But choose the talk shows, and then listen to the people are talking in Japanese. Right? So that's the today's tips. Right, so I hope you get it. So today I'm talking about how to improve your Japanese listening skills part 2, and then I'm focusing on the listening to Japanese language a lot, and then I give you the tips first one, TVs, and then films, and then YouTube or videos are great, but not the very best to improve your listening skills because of the lots of visual stimulation, and you cannot pick up the you cannot focus on the listening part a lot. So use the radio shows or podcasts for the Japanese listening. And then when you choose podcasts or radio shows, choose the radio shows or podcasts for native Japanese people, not for language learners. Okay, for this purpose, listen to Japanese a lot. Okay, and then I show the one example. The TuneIn radio app, so you can access to the Japanese podcast easier, but there are so many other options, so please choose whatever you like and then access to Japanese radio or podcast shows and then listen Japanese regularly, preferably every day. Hope it helps, and then tomorrow I'm talking more about how to improve your Japanese listening skills. If you have any questions or comments, please type in comment box, maybe downward. And then if you enjoy it, please thumbs up. And then see you tomorrow. さようなら